And run.
We're here.
Yes, we are.
We have arrived.
Fashionably late.
Yeah,
But that's
fine.
okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
Everything's fine.
It's fine. It's all fine. No, we were having a little technical difficulties because I'm a dodo. As my son would say, I'm a dodo bird. So,
Uh-oh, you still sound like you're breaking up a little bit.
really? Okay, good. Do I still sound like I'm breaking up?
No, you sound good now.
Okay. Lena, go sit down. Watch YouTube. All right, so I know that you don't know about Sean. Anything about Sean. And I have all of the facts sitting in front of me to tell you.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you the facts, kind of bullet pointed, and then I'll fill in the more the meat of the story.
Okay.
So Sean Entre, he was 12 years old, and on April 14th of this year, he was found at his house hanging from his swing set. He was found by his sister Maria.
You're still breaking up a little bit. I think it could be your AirPod.
Hold on. I know. I'm so annoyed right now about this. Let me put this down.
Hi.
I'm not calling anybody. Wait, I know what it might be. Hold on.
Here.
I think it might not be.
It's just mom. Look at his hair.
Yeah, red hair.
If he call me mom, mom's right there. So mom's calling. Did he call mom? Something? Did he call mom?
Landon, please go sit down. But you, all right, here. The book's in the other room.
That's funny. Him and Dixie would love each other.
I'm very frustrated that I'm breaking up.
Well, this is a test run, so until we get things working good.
I just don't know why it's happening. That's the problem.
Well, your other mic that you were using sounded really good.
Which one?
The black one that you would
Oh,
speak
I know,
into?
but I tried to use it earlier and it was making horrible noises.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was not working well.
Well, that's not good.
No. Okay, what about now? Is it better now or no?
No.
Okay. How about now? Is it now?
Still breaking up, babe.
Hold on.
No. Thank you.
Okay, what about now? Is it still breaking up?
Oh, Lord. No. It's loud as crapola. Hang on, let me turn you down.
Okay, what about now? Is it still breaking up?
Oh, Oh, you will have to mute your YouTube.
Yeah, I was just trying to hear myself. That's all. Okay, well, I guess I'll just use my regular Mac speakers then, because obviously the headphones aren't working. I gotta get new headphones. So that's fine. Anyways, but when you talk though, because I'm using my Mac speakers, will it pick you up?
Well, let's see. I may echo. So give me just a moment. Well, let's see. I may echo.
No, it's not echoing.
No, I can hear you. I can hear fine.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. We'll just do this for now then.
Yeah, I can hear. Okay, let me get back to my... Okay, there we go. I had to get back to the correct StreamYard.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect! Oh my
god! So, any hoozles.
Any hoozles.
All right. So we'll start over. Sean was 12 years old. He lived with his mom, his stepdad, his two little brothers, him and his older sister, Maria. And on the 14th of April, he was found hanging from his swing set. And I'm going to tell the story of the day of how this happened for you.
Okay.
So on the 14th, the day that he was found, he got home at 3:02 p.m. and he walked about 2 house lengths to his house. He walked in the door and his grandma was there with the 2-year-old brother, and she was just ready to walk out the door. And she told Sean that he was to watch his 2-year-old little brother. And Sean was super, super excited about it because he always loved when he got to be put in charge, right? Given a responsibility of watching his brother, it's a big deal when you're 12.
Right.
And his mom then pulled up into the driveway very shortly after and told Sean that she would call him from the car to give him instructions about what was going on, because the mom had to bring the grandma to a doctor's appointment. So the mom said she was only going to be gone about an hour. So the mom and the grandma left, and Sean's mom called him from the car and just told him, watch your brother. And Sean said, okay, I'm going to do my homework, I'm going to do my chores, and then I'm going to play video games with my friends. And so he completed his homework, and so it was they had just come off of spring break, and so he didn't have a lot of homework, and it only took him a few minutes. And at 3:09, he sent a picture of himself holding his homework to the teacher, online. They do an online submission, submitting something.
Okay.
Yeah. So he completed his homework. The mother then called him again because his stepdad had called her to say, hey, if the baby is still I think the baby is still sleeping. The 2-year-old is still sleeping. If he doesn't wake up, he's not going to sleep tonight. And so Sean's mom was like, oh yeah, let me give Sean a call back. So the mom called a second time and told Sean to wake up his brother. He was been sleeping for about 2 hours by then, and to give him a snack and to just let him watch a movie with Sean until she got back. And then Sean was like, okay, sounds good. And then they hung up. Sean's mom then remembered that Sean had told her that he wanted to play video games with his friends. And the good boy that he was just going to kind of abandon that plan and watch his little brother and just not play games. So at 3:27, so let's just remember the mom left about, let's say, 3:05. So this is 3:27. This is the third phone call from his mom, checking in and talking to him, right? So she's on top of it.
Well, of course, you would be with somebody that young.
Right, and this just goes to show what kind of mom she is, that she's calling as frequently as she is and all that. So this was right before she headed into the appointment with the grandmother at 3:27, right? Because it took a little while to drive there. And she called the third time and told him that she was so sorry, she forgot he wanted to play games. And like, what a great mom to think about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to think about that you want to play games and like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that, and told him to bring the little brother upstairs with him while he played games. And Sean said, that's a great idea. I'll get my iPad and I'll set him up in the bedroom next to me so that he can sit there and watch it while I play games. And she thought it was a great idea, and then they hung up. So Sean knew, though, that before any of this happened, he needed to get his chores done. And the really only chore that Sean had was to take out all of the garbage in the house. And he had a little, like, an alarm set on his phone for 3:30. Okay, just throw it in the garbage. For 3:30, so that he remembers to do his chore. So 3:30, his alarm went off.
Mm-hmm.
Went upstairs, grabbed the garbage out of the upstairs rooms, came back downstairs, tied up the garbage from the downstairs and like the kitchen, and replaced the bag. And he made himself a snack. He loved peaches, and he made himself a bowl with a peach in it, ready to eat it for his snack. And it seemingly looked like he was going to take the garbage out, come back in, have his snack, and play his game with his brother.
Right.
So the kitchen trash, we'll get back to that.
Okay.
So his sister Maria, she was coming home from a tennis match, and she was rushing home because her boyfriend AJ and his mother Jamie were coming to pick her up to go to AJ's lacrosse game.
Ooh.
And so she got home and knocked on the door. There was no answer. She knocked again. No answer. So then she decided to call her mom, who said that Sean was home and to just call him because he was probably upstairs playing his video games and he didn't hear the door. And so the sister called him and texted him, and that was at 4:50 p.m. So this is about an hour and 20-ish minutes after the mom had last spoken to Sean.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so there was no answer, and so Maria said, okay, let me go like around to the back and try to like see if the back door was open to get in that way. So she walked into the backyard, she went through the gate, she walked into the backyard, and when she got back there, she saw a figure hanging from the swing set. It was their back. It seemed to her that the back was facing her, and she was scared and she was nervous, obviously, as any 16-year-old would be. And so she started to look around, because her recall of this is that she looked around for somebody else, because it would have made her more brave if there was just like another person around, just in the vicinity. And so as she was looking around, she saw that there was landscapers next door doing some work, and she like made eye contact with them. And so she felt brave enough to like walk up, knowing that there was somebody else outside.
Oh gosh.
So she walked up and she got about 15 feet radius, and she noticed that the hands and the legs of this person seemed like so familiar to her, and she just knew it was Sean. she then confirmed it by running up to him and grabbing his hands and looking at his hands. She did notice that there was a bag over his head and his arms were bound to his sides with a belt. She removed him from the hanging position. She lifted him up to hopefully like release the pressure that was on him, and with the other hand called 911. And that was at 4:54. So she got home and texted and called Sean at 4:50. This was 4 minutes later.
Wow.
So this whole thing that I just described only took her 4 minutes, right? So she removed the wire from around. I'm calling it a wire, but I'm losing my string. The string from around his neck with only 3 fingers. So it wasn't like noosed around his neck in the way that we normally like think it would be. It was just like placed there.
Gotcha.
And she started to give him CPR on the ground as the 911 operator told her what to do. And then EMS took over when they got there. She noticed that Sean was in men's clothing and that the belt was so tightly wrapped around him that even the EMS like made a note of how tight it was. They had to take it off of him to administer like the AED shock. Again, there was a bag over his head and there were glasses. His glasses were found broken nearby his body. And Sean couldn't see without his glasses. And so Maria notes that what was running through her head at the time was, how could this like clumsy little boy do all of this to himself? Like there was no way like she even realized that in this moment of this like tragic thing that's happening, this high anxiety situation, that something wasn't right here. Like this is not what it seemed. So Sean was suspended. It was the rope was around his chin. It wasn't like up into his neck like you would normally see.
So more like his jawline.
Yeah, like it was like here, not here.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
Which is unusual, obviously. And his knees were so close to the ground that his like knees were bent and his feet were like behind him in an L shape, and his knees were so close to the ground that he could have stood up at any moment.
Right.
And it like there was not normal injuries accounted for here. Like there was no like bruising around his neck or his face wasn't swollen. Like things just didn't look like that, right? And this is the biggest part so he was barefoot and his feet were completely clean. Now this is in a place that is like here in New York. It's very like it's a very similar climate. And in April, it's like rainy and the snow is melting or has melted. It's very muddy. And especially in the backyards, it gets like super muddy. So there was no way that he was walking outside anywhere, especially into the backyard, without there being mud on his feet. Or like dirt, anything, right? Like anything.
Wow.
And there was nothing. There was nothing on his feet.
Did they find shoe prints or anything?
That has not been stated because the police have not did not investigate this as any like foul play or wrongdoing, right? So they didn't take the time to do what we're thinking should have been done.
Oh my god.
I know.
This poor family.
I know. It gets worse. So at this time,
I'm already broke out in a cold sweat, man.
I know. I know.
Is...
I can't even imagine. Like, so this at this time is a 16-year-old and her little brother. And so at this time, Ramona, who is Sean's mother, is returning home now. So she's driving down the street and she's stopped at like a stoplight and she sees the EMS coming. She sees all of like the fire trucks and everything coming. And she just gets this like gut feeling of like something's wrong. And she just goes, don't turn right, don't turn right. And they turned down her street. She obviously flew to her house and the EMS was in front of her home. And so she runs out of her car and she ran to the back to see them working on Sean. They did get a faint heartbeat while they were using the AEDs, and somebody yelled, like, we have a heartbeat. But there just wasn't enough electricity to sustain the heartbeat in his heart. And they would later find out that he had been gone for some time and there was no chance of, coming back. So what struck her and what the mom notes is that the gate that they never used, so there was like 2 gates on either side of the house. There was one on the right and one on the left. And the one on the right had like bushes and covering in front of it and nobody ever used it. Everybody always used the gate on the left. And the gate on the left was wide open and they were all on the gate on the right. And so Ramona, the mom, went through the backyard, through the gate that they normally use on the left while everybody was in the gate on the right. But from my understanding, the swing set was like closer to the gate on the right than the left. But she did note that like it was wide open. I'm assuming that that's because the sister went through it and just like left the gate open.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have thought about closing it.
Yeah, I don't think, and I don't know. I don't know if, so I think the point of the mom saying that was like she doesn't know if the gate was already open when her daughter got home or if the daughter opened it. And I think just in those moments as well, the daughter probably was like, I don't remember her, right? Like, I don't know.
Right.
So then everybody kind of paused, and then, Maria and her daughter looked at each other and was like, where's the baby? Like, notice, like, all of this is going on, and they're like, where's the 2-year-olds? Like, where's our little brother? And so they ran to the house, like, to the back door, and the back door just was open. It wasn't locked at all. Like, it was just open. And so she ran in and started calling the little boy's name, and she saw like 2 little legs hanging out of a like laundry pile. And so she like moved the clothes and she saw him there, and he looked at her and opened his eyes and just started crying. And I know. And she did note that she picked him up and he cried, and that he was just like very limp and out of it, and he just didn't seem like himself, the 2-year-old. So then Ramona went to the front door to see if it was locked, as the daughter said, and went out the door, and she saw a neighbor standing outside with a landscaper, and she said, like, did you see anything? What happened? And the landscaper mumbled kind of like low under his breath, like, I don't know him. Who did it? So he said, who did it? She ran over to the other neighbor who was outside cutting his grass, and he said he didn't see anything either. And at this point, Ramona is saying to herself, like, how could all of my neighbors be outside and not see over this 3-foot fence, like, anything? And if you remember, when the daughter got home, there was a landscaper that she met eyes with on the other side, like in the backyard, like on the other side.
Yeah.
Basically seeing into the backyard. So Jared, the husband, he was about 30 to 45 minutes away with their other son for like school services or like extra help. And Ramona called him and told him what happened. And at this point, Sean, they didn't know, because they had gotten that heartbeat, like what was going on. They didn't know if he was gone or not. And so the dad grabbed the little boy that he was with, threw him in the car and headed home. But Ramona like needed somebody there now. So she called her boss, Ramona's boss, and the boss came there right away. They took Sean in an ambulance and they drove away with the ambulance, and Ramona jumped in to a first responder's truck. And as this was happening and they were pulling away with Sean, Jamie and AJ, Maria's boyfriend and the mother, arrived at the house. And Jamie jumped out and was like, what the is going on? What happened? Is he okay? And Ramona just like shook her head no and asked if she could stay with the grandmother and the other kids and kind of just, you know, deal with the scene at the house, because she had to go with Sean. And Jamie agreed, obviously. So Ramona followed them to the hospital with this. I think they didn't specify, they just said a first responder. So I'm assuming it was like the police or the fire chief or somebody who drives a truck. And while they were in the car, she did ask him, like, is he going to be okay? Or do you know anything? And they just said to her, you know, we don't know anything. Like, let's just pray here. So Ramona got to the emergency room and they put her in a separate, and they brought her to a separate room that like looked into where Sean was being worked on, kind of like across the hall, I think. And there was just, you know, they described a scene of nurses and people in scrubs and just like people lining the hall and running down the hall like to him. And the doctor came, you know, there was like kind of like a parting in of people, and the doctor walked out and just shook their head no. And of course Ramona dropped to her knees and just screamed no and was crying. And there was a nurse that also during this time dropped to her knees and was just like praying while they were working on him. It was just like you could feel everybody's like upset in this.
Of course, it's a child.
I know. So after all was like said and done, Ramona asked if she could see him, and they agreed. And she went into the room, and you know, she grabbed his feet and she kissed his feet, and she walked up to his head, and she noticed that she was like, oh, his beautiful blonde hair, and she was looking at his face and it was so angelic. And then she kind of said to herself, like, there's no harm to his face. There's no swelling. His teeth were intact. His eyes were not swollen or red. There was no mark on, like, there was just no marks or signs that like something had happened, like that he had hung himself. Like things go, you know, when that does happen to someone, there's lots of like outward signs that you can see that that's what happened.
Yes, there is lots.
Right. She held his hand, and there was blood between his fourth and fifth fingers, and she thought to herself, like, oh my god, this is evidence, like, I have to take a picture of this. So she stood back to like take a picture, and as she did that, she noticed that he was wearing her husband's shirt, his stepdad's shirt.
Mommy, I'll show you.
Okay, I'll be there in a few minutes, okay? Okay, go sit down. And that he was wearing the husband's shirt, and Ramona and noticed that Ramona's like, she noticed that and she was like, oh my God, like, I have to go get the investigator. Like, this is not right. Like, this is where she's noticing, because she didn't see the scene really, that like something was not right. Like, why is he wearing his shirt? There's blood. Like, this is not just like what everybody thinks it is. So they ran, her and Chaplin were in the room at the time, and they ran out to go get the investigator.
Right.
And Ramona, as she was taking the picture, like, noticed also that there was marks on Sean's like wrists from being bound together to his side. But in the medical examiner's report, no marks were listed of being on his wrists at all, even though Ramona has a picture of them. Like, she took a picture of them. And so Ramona also knew what Sean was wearing because of the picture that was sent for homework. So she knew what clothes he was wearing, right? Like, he was wearing when he got home from school and what he wore to school that day. The officers came in to the room and it became a crime scene. And so Ramona was escorted out of the room. And at that point, she didn't realize that, like,
Mommy,
that was the last time she was going to see her baby.
where's it? And like,
Please go sit in the other room.
it is.
Please go sit in the other room. I'm going to put you in the bed.
Can you do it?
Nope, not till tomorrow. Please go sit in the other room.
Morning?
Yes, tomorrow morning. To morning. She said to morning.
To morning.
To morning. Tomorrow morning. Yes, tomorrow morning. Go ahead. Go sit down and watch YouTube, or I'm going to put you in the bed. So it had become a crime scene. She was escorted out. And then she remembered, as she was escorted out into a separate room, she started to think about what happened at the scene, right? And think a little bit more. And she remembered that when they were trying to bring him back, she noticed he was wearing black underwear. And the black underwear were not his. They were his stepdad's. So now this is his stepdad's underwear, his stepdad's shirt, and they found out later that also he was wearing his stepdad's jeans as well.
Oh, wow.
And he was taken, like, when he was taken down to do the AED, as they took the jeans off because there was probably like metal on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when they saw this, the stepdad has arrived at the hospital at this time. By this time, they thought that there might still be an intruder in the house now, right? Because now this is like freaking them out, and so they called Jamie, the boyfriend's mom, and told her, like, there might be an intruder in the house still. So Jamie told the police and the investigators and who was there what was going on, and so they went through the house and checked the house, and they said that there was nobody there. The detectives then wanted to question Maria, the sister, and she kept trying, like, over and over and over again to tell them that, like, something wasn't right, but they were just not having it. Like, they were not. It just seemed like they were sticking with this was a self-unaliving, and that was it. Like, they weren't open to hearing why anybody thought otherwise at this point. They asked about like problems Sean might have had at school. And there was a few girls in his class that were bothering him and bullying him, but that was back in December. It had been handled, and it was, other than that, it was nothing. They had just been on a Disney cruise prior, in like the week prior. They came home and started planning another one on the 12th. Sean's mom had brought him to renew his passport so they could go on another cruise. Like, things were good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. So Jared, at this time, Jared is the husband, that the stepdad, came home, or like headed home to see his kids and just like kissed them, hugged them, told the grandmother, unfortunately, that Sean was gone. And he also told officers, like, Sean wouldn't hurt himself. Like, he just wouldn't, right? So the sentiment has been reiterated to the police officers over and over, like, he would not hurt himself.
Right.
The investigators, I guess, did take some pictures, but they were never given to the family, or they were never able to see them. So they have no idea what pictures were taken and of what or weren't taken. They took kind of everybody's info. And at this time, there was this female neighbor that kept trying to come up to Maria, the sister, the daughter, and tried to talk to her, but she would like come up and like back away and like come up and back away. And Jamie kept telling her to like back off and leave Maria alone. Like, this isn't the time. Like, just, and she kept like coming up and then leaving and coming up and leaving. And she just kept telling Maria that everything would be okay. So that, I guess, is notable of this strange behavior from a random female neighbor.
Did they note if she was outside as well?
They didn't say if she was, like, they didn't really know where she came from. They were just like,
gotcha.
This random person. Ramona's boss, who was also there, then took the kids to a hotel to meet their parents, and to go. Jared would also be meeting them. Ramona would be meeting them in a little while. So they get to the hotel. Everybody's, reunited. They get up to a room, and Ramona sits down and asks her 2-year-old, like, what did you and Sean do today, right? And the 2-year-old said that there was a friend that came over, and they kept punching Sean over and over again. And the little 2-year-old, like, made his little 2-year-old gestures that there was somebody there that came to the house and that they were punching and hurting Sean. So at this time, around 12 a.m., so let's remember about 5 p.m. is when they probably took Sean away in the ambulance. And this is now 12 p.m. So not that much long. I mean, maybe like 6-7 hours, which is not a long time in the grand scheme of things when something like this happens. Because there's so much that should be happening. And so about midnight, the police called and told them, like, we're done. You can come home. Basically just let them back into a crime scene. So, yeah.
Wow.
So they went home, and when they got home, they just, like, something wasn't right. And they went home to look around a little bit, and Ramona noticed that there was a bowl on the counter left with a peach in it. Like, Sean was going to eat his peach. And that there were 2 trash bags with blue handles on it. And then her trash bags with red handles on it. And so she knows that she buys the trash bags with red handles on it because she gets them in bulk from Costco at like hundreds of at a time, and they all have red handles. So these 2 trash bags with blue handles, they had like slashes in them, and they were like ripped open. And she was like, whose trash bag? Like, where do these trash bags come from? Whose trash bags are these? And next to the trash bags were Sean's Crocs, and they were like flipped over from how you would normally have them.
Oh.
So then they were all just like exhausted, and they were just like, we'll deal with this tomorrow, right? They had to get a 2-year-old to bed. They had other kids to get to sleep. And so as they were walking upstairs, the dad was like, oh my God, it's so hot in here. And somebody had turned the thermostat up to 85. Okay, it's okay.
This is just bizarre.
Right? Like, why turn the thermostat up? Like, it was very weird. Unless they were the person, if there is another person, it's like the person was trying to, I don't know, like make it warm in the house, maybe so the baby passed out or something. I don't know. It just was notable that it was like the thermostat was messed with and like turned up higher.
That is bizarre.
Right? And so they all wanted to sleep in the mom and dad's bedroom that night. And so they all like go to walk into the bedroom, and Ramona just like stops and is just like paralyzed because she sees Sean's underwear on the floor in their master bedroom and immediately yells for her husband to go get Ziplocs and gloves to put it in. So the dad goes downstairs, he gets the gloves, he gets the Ziplocs, and Ramona puts the gloves on and puts the underwear in a baggie because to her this is evidence now. Like there's evidence, right? And so the dad immediately calls, his stepdad immediately calls 911 or, you know, the authorities to come and get this evidence. And he also said, like, we want a patrol car parked outside of our house tonight because we don't feel safe. Like, we just don't. So from my understanding, they didn't really say if the police car came or not, or what happened with that, that they just all, like, it was very unclear if they actually came or not. But again, this is probably at this point like 2:00 in the morning because of all of this. So all the kids went to lay in their parents' room in their bed, and even Maria, the oldest one. And the mom went into Sean's bedroom and just like was looking around and looking at his bed and looking at the scene and saw his AirPods were still plugged in, and she was just like, I wonder where they found his phone, and you know, just looking at the scene of like this is my baby. And so she took one of his sweatshirts and she just hugged it, and she just stayed in his room all night and just sobbed.
Oh,
I know. The next day, Jamie, AJ's mom, showed up before the police, like the detectives got there with some food, and she came in, and as she came in, she noticed the trash bags as Ramona did, but she also noticed that there was like a handprint on their, I'm assuming like sliding back door, like glass back door, and she put her own hand up to it to see like the size, and it was notably like much bigger than her hand, and she was like, oh my god, you know what I mean? So the detectives get there, she points out the handprint, and they reluctantly agree to take like to
take
lift
the palm print.
Yeah, like lift the print. And it is notable that like on Jamie's way like to their house, she called the school counselor to let her know like, hey, my son and his girlfriend are not going to be in school. Let her know what happened and all of that as well.
Right.
And so they did pull the print. They said that they tested it and that nothing came back, but there's never been any like record given to the family that this actually happened, that it was actually like tested at all.
This just makes me sick.
I know. Like, what? They showed the investigators or the detectives videos from Sean that day at school. He was like they keep saying that like he bounces around, like he must just be one of those kids that is just like
full
gets
of
like
life
jumpy
and
when they're happy. Yeah, like giddy and like jumpy. And he showed them a video of him with his friend in the hallways and stuff at school that day, and he was just like happy, high spirits. And the clothes that Sean was wearing that day were hanging up at their house when they got back. So as the detectives are talking to Ramona and Jared, Jamie is at the sink like doing dishes, and they're asking them questions, and obviously Ramona and Jared are like pushing and telling them all of these things to like get them to like take this as not a self-unaliving, as like a murder. And she just notes that it was like she couldn't believe how much they were just like didn't care about their concerns. Like they weren't taking them seriously. Like this was laid out in their head from the time that they got there, and they were unwilling to look at it in any other fashion for whatever reason. There's no reason as to why. So when the detectives were there in the morning, they told Ramona and Jared that there was something written on the bag that was over Sean's head. And it was, I don't know how to say it. It was like Shoei. It's SHOEI, and it's a motorcycle helmet brand. And that like sparked something for Ramona and was like, oh my God, they had put together a pile of things that they were going to throw away. And in that pile of things that they were going to throw away were 2 motorcycle helmets in bags in the garage. So she ran out to the garage to see if what was going on. And so there was only one motorcycle helmet in the bag, but the like lace from the bag was missing from the one that was still there, and then the bag and the lace was missing from the second motorcycle helmet. And they note this because they're a military family, and I guess that they have like countless amounts of ropes and things all over the garage, and Sean knew that these things were there. They use them all of the time. Like, if Sean, he didn't need to have something that was just like accessible because he knew where like the good, thick, great rope was.
Right.
This was like this was like a person that came into the garage just like looking for something, and that was the first thing they stumbled on and used. It definitely wasn't the best option, right? So that is just like, it was just like, oh my God.
I just don't understand how somebody could do this. How can you do this to a child
and then have
anybody
the
else?
police just
not give 2 craps, and that's a nice way of putting it.
So they didn't go around the police didn't go around the neighborhood asking if anybody saw anything or asking for videos from neighbors, like houses. Their neighbor next to them did have security cameras, but they haven't worked for years. I think they were just more there to like deter people. And so in that weekend, Ramona and Jared went themselves knocking door to door asking if anybody had video footage. Everybody said no, but a few people posted to like the community crime page and like asked if anybody in the neighborhood had any video, and somebody did reply and showed like a still shot of their video of the front of Sean's house, and there was a landscape vehicle parked in front of Sean's house at 4:26, right in the middle of this time frame. But they never were able to obtain the actual video. They never got the actual video from the person. It doesn't say why. They just like they just didn't give it to them. Which is insane to me as well. Like, if somebody came to me and was like, I need a video from your camera, something happened to my baby, I would give them the whole security system. Like, here, take
it.
It was just, it's insane to me. It just is. So then Monday, they brought Sean's glasses back to his parents, and they were broken. There was a lens missing, and they didn't come like back in an evidence bag. They weren't tagged. Like, they looked virtually untouched and like untested. And so they asked them, like, did you even test these? And they were like, of course we did. But like, there was no evidence of them being tested on the glasses. So on Monday, they also spoke to Sean's classmates, and without any like further looking into this, they just told them like, there's no threat, everything's fine. Like, and they don't really even know that there was no threat because they didn't even look, really. but they made it a point to like, and so what the family is noting is that like it seemed more important to the police to make sure that everybody else didn't think that there was a threat and there was no panic than like finding out what happened to Sean. Yeah, it was.
Like,
then
I can't.
so-
I can't.
I know, and
What
so
is wrong with these LEs? What in the
I don't know. I don't know.
wrong with them?
And after this, so the medical examiner, I guess the way that they do like their investigation portion of this is that there's some type of law enforcement that is with them while like giving them information and evidence, and then they make their theory of what happened, and based off of that and like looking at like injuries and all of that stuff. And so they just ruled it self-unaliving, and they gave Sean's remains back to his family.
I hope to goodness that they are going or have or did do a private autopsy, because you can do those.
I know, but that was it. That was the end of this is where it's left. They closed the case and they won't reopen it. They are burying this. They won't, like, even like the news stations, everything, like nobody will touch this. And I don't know why. I can't figure out what reason they would have other than they didn't handle it properly from the beginning. And if you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't secure a crime scene in the beginning, and so many people were like in and out and all of that they couldn't then say like, oh, we screwed up, right? Like,
well, I mean, at the time, of course, when everything is happening, it didn't show signs of a crime scene, but it sure as hell did afterwards, and you can still go back.
Well, I just feel like they could have looked at they could have looked at him and known, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of like Ramona said, his mom, like his eyes were not like nothing was wrong. Like nothing physically looked like this is what happened to him. And then, one thing that stood out to me is that the little brother seemingly looked a little bit drugged when they got home.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that that's the same that's what happened to Sean as well. And he just got like a lethal dose of it. Because there was no, like the only marks that were on him were the marks from being bound so tightly. That's another thing too, is like you can't bind yourself like that with a belt.
Not that tightly.
It's physically impossible to do that. And so it's just like the problem is what happened was that the sister took him down, right? So you couldn't see, like she was the only one that saw that. I wish she would have in that moment thought to like snap a picture with her phone that was in her hand really quick. You know what I mean? Like just to have before you touched it.
Well, I mean, I would have done the same thing though. I would have,
Absolutely. This is, no. I'm not, this is like absolutely, I would have done the same thing she did. Like, she obviously wasn't thinking about that. I'm just like in hindsight, I'm like, I wish she was just being like a normal teenager. Like, just.
But still, they could have went and they could have looked over that, done it with a fine-tooth comb.
Well, what about the landscaper next door that she met eyes with? He was in the backyard, literally met eyes with her in the backyard, but didn't see this little boy hanging on a swing set.
Why didn't they question them?
Right. They didn't even get questioned. The landscape, or maybe they did talk to the landscaper. I think I might have read that, but it was a very brief, like, did you see anything? It wasn't like a full brought in questioning. It was just like in the driveway questioning. But like landscaper truck in front of the house, landscaper at this watching all of this happen as he's found, and then the landscaper standing outside of the house when Ramona gets there.
And it's not much to jump over a 3-foot fence.
No. And then he had there was garbage bags in the house. So that
and they didn't even take those.
They literally just didn't. I don't know. I'm just like frustrated at like, you can't tell me that somebody committed this and left their handprint on the door. Like, they didn't even take the dad's handprint to like compare to it, because it could have been his, right? But, and if it wasn't anybody's that lived in that homes, then like clearly it was somebody else. And you're telling me that somebody came into their house that did this and they don't have any other type of criminal record? You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yeah.
I hate to like say this, but like a lot of people that work in landscaping are working under the table and are like,
yeah, I know,
future, like convicted felons and things like that might not be able to get a job otherwise because of their record.
Yeah.
But
then they would have a palm hand or a palm print if they were incarcerated.
But that's what the family is saying, is that they're thinking that they just like obliged to taking the print, and they never really even there's no record of it being tested.
Is this a small town?
I don't think so. It's not. No, I mean, it's not like horribly small where it's like out in the middle of nowhere.
Are they under budget? I mean, pretty much all of them are nowadays, but
I just mean, like, I just don't think that the handprint was ever actually tested. I think that they just took it to,
I don't think any of it was.
Right.
That's my opinion. By the way that it sounds.
No, none of it was even, like, handled at all. They have what the family is saying is that, like, they've asked and there's no record of all of this. There's also on the Facebook, okay, stop please. On the Facebook page, which I have spent a lots of time on lately.
Are his records sealed?
I don't know.
Like the autopsy records?
Well, I don't know if they even, like, I don't know how that works with on a self-unaliving, like, ruling. If it gets, like, sealed for the, like,
the reason,
privacy of, does that make sense?
Because he's an adolescent, yes.
Right, and then, like, the privacy of the, like, because I know that when there's, like, self-unalivings that happen or have happened to people I've known or anything like that, like, it's really hard to find cause of death anywhere.
Well, the reason why I ask is because I actually read Chester's, and I actually had it on my old computer for a long time because I downloaded it because I found it, but yeah, it could be different with him being an adolescent.
I'm sure.
And with them closing the case, I'm sure I can find out some info on that.
Court. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. I'm hoping it's not like court sealed for a while. You know what I mean?
This is just gonna be an extremely hard case for me to help you on, but I can try my best. And if I feel like it's too much, then I'll bow out gracefully, just like I did with Summer Wells. But I'll see what I can find.
I think there's like, yeah, it says, I just want to read you really quick before we hop off the family wants to address like what was said in the police press so here's the thing is I started looking into like media and what the police were, law enforcement were saying and all of that. And because all of the information that I've gotten, like all of this deep information is straight from the family. Because if you just go off of like what you read in like media, press, all of that, you're going to get this much information.
Yeah.
It's literally like, we found him, he self-unalived, and that was it. Like, that was it, right? So they're just addressing like what they said. They said over the course of several weeks, we, the family, filmed the property and its surroundings to see if anyone would revisit the scene of the crime. And there is an individual who was filmed numerous times throughout several nights coming back. They showed a red mark on the wall from May 20th, 2022. This was a new red mark. When you wait 5 weeks to collect evidence, there will be new marks, especially with all those kids living in the house. It was one of many spots throughout the house that were pointed out to the investigators of being like a new spot, right? No one knows if the 2-year-old was sleeping during the hour he was alone. No one else was there. Initially, it was assumed that he was, and the mother was grateful that he was unharmed and said so. Later in the evening, when she was reunited with her son, he said that there had been a man in the house. This was disclosed to police. We refer to the string as a shoelace type string because that is what the autopsy describes it as, which it is very similar. Like the string, those bags that we would get that were like drawstring.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Oh,
bags,
yeah, I got
very similar to that. So it's very similar in that. And it's similar in size. It was from a motorcycle bag, and the bag was also on his head. The string, of course, had his DNA on it as it was on his body. No shit. We did provide leads to the police in the hope that they would look into people who were in the area at the time. We didn't realize we'd be mocked for doing so. Shouldn't they be the ones looking for? Shouldn't they be the ones looking for leads? This is what they chose to focus on instead of answering a few major questions that have been lingering for some time. Sean's arms were belted tightly to his body. How did he put a bag over his head and a string over that while having belted hands? Sean's glasses were broken. He could not see. Where's the missing lens? So the other thing that I want to focus on too on this is talking about this missing lens. Going with like a serial killer theory, because let's just go with like a Dexter type theory here, right? Because this is like something, you know what I mean? Like he would slip in and out like this. It's like serial killer theory. They always take, well, not always, but most of them take a trophy item. What better to take than the kid's lens that they would just like write off as being like missing, Sean did not leave a note, which like an astronomical amount of people that unalive themselves do. He did not search how to unalive himself. He did not communicate with any strangers online. Sean submitted all of his upcoming assignments online as soon as he got home from school. He also prepared himself a snack, which was left uneaten on the counter. Sean was babysitting his little brother. And that's also something that I want to say too. Like, he was babysitting his little brother, if nothing else. And he also didn't know he was going to be home alone during this time. So no time to plan anything. And then this responsible kid who was so good would not have left his little brother, his 2-year-old little brother, for something to happen to him Like, he just wouldn't. Because people that are in that state of depression and, like, to this point are, in my opinion, hyper focusing on, like, who's gonna find me, who's around me, who will this hurt immediately, right? Like, they're
Mhm.
hyper
you're
focused
you-
on that.
Yes. Yes.
So the fact that he was watching his little brother, it just is like, he wouldn't have left a 2-year-old alone. Most
He doesn't
people
come across that type.
no. Like, he's submitting his homework as soon as he gets home from school. Like, this is a responsible kid who's, like, taking out
He's
he's doing his
more
chores.
responsible than me.
Right? He's doing his chores. He was gonna give up playing his video games to watch his 2-year-old brother. Like, he's not leaving his 2-year-old brother alone to fend for himself.
Like, especially at that age, I was nowhere near. Mama would have to leave me notes. Take the dog out.
Right.
Don't leave her outside. You know?
The ladies plan to contact him. Contact who?
Who?
Sean? Oh, do you mean Sean? I think she specifically might mean Sean.
Yeah, she knows. She knows.
I have something to tell you about that after this, and you're gonna go, what?
Yes. Well, oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we kind of already synchronized on that a little bit.
Yeah, but, like, you're gonna poop yourself, I think, when I tell you what happened.
Because yeah, with us starting her channel, not a lot of people know what we do.
No, I know.
And we're going to try to ease people into that aspect.
I don't care. I'll tell her.
Well, I mean, I will too, but
like, I
don't. We've already been shown some things, so
right.
And we've collabed on it, and it lines up. So
I'll just leave with this, and then we'll get off. Is that there is a petition that you can sign, and I'm going to drop it in the chat right now, so that if you would like to, please go and sign this for anybody that's watching, after the fact, watching this replay. Please go and sign the petition, and let's get this open. She goes,
it's not our usual. She said it's not our usual.
It's not our usual. It is not our usual, but it's okay. Like, I don't care what people know about me. It's who I am, and it's fine. But for this one, we'll just keep it,
Yeah.
just with Sean, because he's the one that, deserves all of the spotlight here. So I love you guys.
Yes.
Have a good night. We will talk soon, and we'll probably be going live. I mean, we will be going live way more often to talk about lots of stuff. So
Lots of stuff. We got so much good stuff planned and work into our, Gianna's routine, because this is not my channel. So I'm too scared to go live. Because
I'll make her unscared. So I think what you're supposed to say is please like and subscribe, hit that bell button. I don't know. It's like what I hear people say.
Make sure to hit that thumbs up.
Make sure to hit thumbs up. No, but whoever watches this, thanks for watching. Come back, because we'll love you. Okay, bye.
Bye.